Mr. Hice is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bax, let me go back. You had stated that the federal system is set up to discourage permit applications. Can you further expound on that, what you mean?
I would say in effect that it is. I think when you're, you see the unnecessary red tape that exists, the duplication, the fact that you have to do analyses that might take multiple years if you even get it, a project completed at all. When you have to worry about a statute of limitations that's for most projects it's around 6 years, so you may not get a lawsuit until like the last day right before that 6-year time period is elapsed. That's set up not to encourage private investment. So that's
all right. So basically, it's duplicate activity, the red tape, the expense involved. It's all set up just to maybe not set up for that purpose, but the end result is discouraging.
It is, and I think that there's a bipartisan recognition, actually, that there are problems, and that's why we've seen permit streamlining and other legislation, and also by the Obama administration, and
I mean, there's all sorts of problems. Let me go on further. You also stated that, made the comment that states often have the most expertise to address environmental problems. Would you have any recommendations for us in terms of maybe some specific suggestions for Congress to engage states in the environmental process with the hope of eventually getting this, what is set up to discourage, out of the way?
Congress in the 70s, and when they passed the Clean Water Act, thought that states should take a leading role when it comes to protecting the environment when it comes to water. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily the Clean Water Act statute itself, but the way it's been implemented has created a situation where states are being forced out of the process. The Clean Water Act is one example. The Hice is another example. There's kind of this belief there should be a cooperative federalism that exists, but the agencies implementing the laws don't see it that way. For us to be able to address, for example, problems with the Clean Water Act and definitions of terms such as navigable waters, ultimately Congress is going to need to define what these critical statutory terms mean to provide clarity and predictability for property owners across the country. It's important to have regulations that kind of respect states because they are closer to the issues and they have the expertise and they can be innovative and try new things. There's just really it doesn't help to have kind of a one-size-fits-all federal approach thinking that it's going to apply across the board in every type of water body that may exist, and that's unfortunate. And what's even worse is that we have regulations that are so unpredictable, especially like in the Clean Water Act context, that the GAO in 2004 actually issued a report, and it was cited in the Rapanos case, basically saying that the Army Corps of Engineers was in effect creating vague definitions on purpose to kind of create this type of flexibility for them to kind of apply the law as they deem fit. And that's a problem. We need clarity on these laws.
Well, yes, we need clarity, but there's so many things that need clarifying. I mean, the red tape, the really excessive abuse. I mean, even with the taxpayers, you have loan programs that fall on the back of taxpayers, and yet it's a moving target. It seems like the goalpost is always moving. I mean, let's go down that path. How can you assess the cost for a taxpayer backing a loan guarantee program when there isn't even a clear timetable of when the project's going to begin, let alone end?
That's a problem. What's a big problem is that the GAO did a study trying to figure out cost data and looked at all the federal agencies, and they basically concluded there's hardly any cost data to really get a sense of what these delays and the costs are for the regulations. So that by itself would be something concrete that Congress can do to try to create some transparency to this process.
Okay, thank you very much. I yield back, Mr.
I thank the gentleman.